Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Grey's Anatomy, Season 4, Episode 13, The Becoming. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So as always, we'll start with the patients. The first patient that we deal with is another trial patient of Meredith's, and he was in the army. He has the type of tumor. They've decided, because they haven't saved any trial patients so far and they've had a few off screen between episodes, that they're going to try something new, which is to put the virus in two separate locations of the tumor. However, it ends up that it reverts back into its original form, the virus does, and that leads to the patient passing away. And there's some drama around this patient because the father's a military person, and military policy is don't ask, don't tell. And the patient happens to have a boyfriend who's also in the military. And luckily, well, not luckily, but basically, he goes into the surgery with his father disapproving and basically ignoring his lover. Then, when the news of the death is coming, Todd, who is the lover, comes and makes a big speech to the dad about how they both love him, so on and so forth. And then at the end, when they're in the morgue, the dad leaves, nods at him, seemingly coming to accept it post-death. But of course, it's post-death, so I don't know how much meaning that actually has. But it is still a nice moment between the boyfriend and the dad having that acceptance. Then we have a heart transplant patient who has who's immunocompromised, so she's basically been living in a bubble. She was originally told it would only be for a few weeks, but then it had been more than that, and she was basically losing her mind because she just wanted human contact and to not have to speak to people through plastic. And Dr. Hahn comes in the middle of a breakdown, tells her that they found her a heart and that it's on its way. But while they are waiting for the heart to arrive, she starts to code because her lung collapses, and Alex breaks the bubble in order to save her life, which saved her life, but unfortunately that puts her at too much risk of infection. Therefore, she has to wait for the next heart, and she ends up losing this heart as a result. But because she's already lost this heart, her children and husband are allowed in full, like, sterilized garb with, like, the head head bonnets with the mask and, like, the surgical aprons and all of that, and gloves, to basically give her some of that human contact before she has to go back into the full isolation while waiting for the next heart to come available, though she is told she is at the top of the list for a matching heart. And those are the two patients that are focused on in this episode. However, the main drama of the episode does revolve around Sloane. So Sloane is now sleeping with Callie. That's confirmed that they're doing it quite frequently, even in the hospital. And he's obviously slept with a lot of nurses, and the nurses decide to band together to boycott his entire, like, they're not going to do surgeries with him anymore. And this leads to HR basically coming in and saying that nothing's happened yet, but we need to protect ourselves from any future, you know, lawsuits, litigation, etc. Therefore, everybody in the hospital has to register when they are sleeping with another member of staff at the hospital. This causes the chief intern position to be created because Adele is the representative of the nurses union because she used to be a nurse and has now decided to work to give herself some purpose. Richard sees it as a way to try to win her back, so he promises that he's been delegating recently, and he has George become the chief's intern and give out these forms to everyone in the hospital, which of course causes drama because everyone slept with everybody. Then at the end of the episode, it ends up working because the chief's intern position becomes permanent for George, and also Adele is impressed by his delegation and decides to sleep with him. like sleep with Richard. Then we have Callie and Han. They've been in an awkward position since Addison left. Callie admits why she was avoiding Han after Han gives her a speech about how she doesn't make friends easily. But then it becomes awkward again when Callie admits why she's been like kind of avoiding her. Then Christina has some drama. Off screen, Burke has won a Harper Avery Award for his heart surgeries, and this impacts Christina because she's not mentioned in the article at all. And yet, the entire time that he was recovering and he had a tremor, she was the one performing all of his surgeries. She, like, she knows that, the chief knows that, like, everybody at the hospital is aware of that. But Han, of course, wasn't at the hospital at the time. She doesn't know that. She, of course, treats Christina poorly and doesn't want to treat her. And this then basically leads to Christina giving a speech about how she used to be Burke's hand. Everybody knows it. She wasn't mentioned. Now she's a ghost, and nothing's really changed for her, and how she does not wish Burke well. And then the other drama is Rose initially says she doesn't need a form because she didn't sleep with Derek yet, but then she does decide to sleep with Derek after um, she gets a speech from, I can't remember if it's Alex or Sloane. Well, somebody is talking about how people, pretend sex is a prize to be won and how he looks down on them for it. So she kind of then decides to sleep with Derek. However, this doesn't really turn out, well, she doesn't know it yet, but Derek and Sloane then talk because Bailey gives a speech to the nurses about how Sloane is a bit of a man whore. Um, and then Derek says he's more of one because when he was sleeping with Rose, all he could think about was Meredith. Meanwhile, Meredith is in therapy and she's basically telling her story to the therapist, who basically comes out and says, "You're a coward, and here you have a love story that you've just told me from your patient, and yet what actually happened wasn't heroic, but he died while the person that he loves was in the next room and he didn't want to see him because he was worried about what other people would say, i.e. his dad, and that is a tragedy, not a win, and that Meredith seeing it as a win is basically her trying to distance herself from the fact that Derek is with Rose now, could be with her, but because of her own cowardice, he is not with her, and that essentially is what that boils down to. That's the very end of the episode, and of course Meredith storms out. There is also, there was so much drama and stuff happening in this episode. A little bit of drama with Izzy. Izzy knows that Ava is not pregnant, but she can't reach Ava to tell her she's not pregnant, and she can't give Alex the results of her pregnancy test because he's not the patient. And as a result of this, she basically is trying to subtly warn Alex, like, don't go in too deep in this relationship, don't move in together quite yet, keep some distance, wait and see, because she knows the truth. But Alex interprets it as her not trusting him, not believing that he could be a dad, thinking that he'd be a bad dad, all this stuff. And she can't tell him that he's not going to be a dad because there's no baby, because of the fact that she can't get a hold of Ava. And Alex is making all these changes in his life because of Ava that he shouldn't be making because she's not actually pregnant. So that drama also is kind of underlying the episode as well. And I guess since we're going through all this minor drama too, Lexi is a little bit insecure because Alex, when he was filling out his form, forgot about the fact that they had briefly been sleeping together and felt like she was potentially forgettable. She even points out to George at the bar that she called back 3 of her exes to ask them how unforgettable she was, but is still waiting to be called back by them. So there's that there as well. And I think that covers all of the things that I can remember that happened. Like I said, it was a lot. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, time to rank the episode, first on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. And we have our single episode supporting character introductions, which are two patients, Darren Covington and Kira Marshall. Then we have the multi-episode supporting character introduction, which is our HR individual, Wayne Sheehan. Then we have the supporting relationship development. Callie and Sloan are actively sleeping together. Then we have Adele and Richard sleep together, which is progress because they were separated, getting a divorce. Then we have our multi-season supporting character development. Adele's gotten a job as a nurse union rep, and we also learn that she previously was a nurse before she met and married Richard, and that she'd then become a housewife. And when he asks her why she's working, like if she needs money, he's like, she says that she doesn't need money. She has 50% of his. All she wants is to find purpose and to be taken seriously, and that's why she's stepped back into nursing, not actively as a nurse, but as the union rep for the nurses. Then we have our multi-season main character development, which is George becoming the chief's intern. And that brings us all the way up to, I think it's 15 points if my math isn't wrong, and it could be wrong because honestly I suck at math, but I'm fairly certain we're at 15. But we do have a couple of negatives. First negative is one that I debated on, to be honest. Alex knows that the patient is immunocompromised, that she's in the bubble, that she's about to get her heart. He was there for her breakdown when he knew how difficult being separated from her family had been. And yes, he saves her life by going through the plastic in order to treat her, but that ends up losing her the heart that she was getting. And now she has to wait for the next one to become available, and that could be, days to weeks to months. So I think for the patient, that would be devastating because of how difficult she's found being isolated. Also, he put her at risk because she is immunocompromised. He was taken off the surgery, and Christina was scrubbing it instead because he was running a bit of a temperature. Um, so he knew that he had that, and he had been taken off the surgery for that reason, yet he still went into the room. And the room was set up with like these gloves to be able to treat the patient while maintaining the bubble. And he broke that bubble. So that is why he did save her life, and that is good. But he went against the rules to do so, and that ended up costing the patient quite a bit. And there were the tools necessary to help her with the like gloves that were in the bubble, so he could have preserved the bubble. So I feel, like I said, I was debating because he did save her life, but at the same time, the way he saved her life and the consequences of that, I still felt were worth 2 points gone. But also, I do appreciate the fact that he did save her life ultimately, so it still was a good thing in the more subjective sense. And then we have our supporting relationship regression or breakup. Obviously, this counts as regression. It's not a breakup yet, but Derek admits in the elevator to Sloane that he and Rose slept together within this episode, but off screen, and that while he was sleeping with her, all he was thinking about was Meredith, which he feels bad about at least, but also is very telling to the fact that he is not over Meredith. He's in this thing with Rose, but clearly his feelings for Rose don't come close to Meredith because he's still thinking about Meredith. However, with all of that being said, that still leaves us with 11 points, and so this is a 10 out of 10 on the objective ranking list. And when more than one episode has the same score, it is ranked in episode order, and 10 is the highest score possible. So we have on our mostly objective ranking in first, A Change is Gonna Come, Physical Attraction, Chemical Reaction, Where the Wild Things Are. This episode in fourth place, The Becoming, followed by Kung Fu Fighting, Piece of My Heart, Love/Addiction, Haunt You Every Day, Forever Young, Let the Truth Sting, Lay Your Hands on Me, Crash Into Me, and The Heart of the Matter. Meanwhile, on the personal ranking, I enjoyed this episode. I did find all of the drama to be very interesting and compelling. Both of the patient stories kind of took a background, so I don't really have a strong opinion on either one. I I did love the drama though. The drama was what I came for. None of the drama was overly negative, which I also appreciated because if there's going to be drama, I do prefer that it is on a positive side of things. Um, I think in the summary and the mostly objective, I kind of went over everything that happened in the episode and somewhat what I felt about it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, especially since the video is starting to get a little longer. But needless to say, well, not needless to say, that is to say, either way, okay, no. I gave it an 8 out of 10. That's what I'll say. I gave it an 8 out of 10, which brings my personal ranking to in first, where the wild things are physical attraction, chemical reaction, piece of my heart, a change is gonna come, haunt you every day. This episode I put in sixth place, the becoming, followed by love/addiction, forever young, lay your hands on me, let the truth sting, kung fu fighting, crash into me, and then in last place so far is the heart of the matter. And so we come to the series ranking so far. On our mostly objective ranking, the seasons are in first place season 1, followed by season 2, then season 3. Season 4 so far has a score of 84 out of 150. Then on the personal ranking side, it's the reverse, season 3 in first, followed by season 2, then season 1. And season 4 so far has 93 out of 150. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy Season 4, Episode 13, The Becoming. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.